Hi, I'm Dawn with K-Square Technologies. Welcome to our monthly webinar training series. Today's session is on Microsoft Teams, and we're going to focus on working with time-saving applications. So this is a continuation of our previous webinar last month on leveraging the power of Microsoft Teams. Check that out in our YouTube channel. So thanks for being here. And let's go ahead and explore what we're going to be looking at today in terms of working with Microsoft Teams. So of course, we're going to look at some of the different ways that you can access applications in Teams. And we'll look at the variety of ways to access applications like tasks and polls and working with OneNote. And what applications are available to you in your meetings. So that these will include an exploration of Stream and Whiteboard, as well as looking at how Teams can integrate with other applications that we use every day, like Outlook. That is, how do Teams and Outlook work together? So those are some of the things that we'll be exploring. And know that this session is recorded and it will be posted on our K-Square Technologies YouTube channel. So if you need it as a follow-up reference or if you want to come back to that, then that's where you find it. So let's go ahead and hop into Teams and really look at what our options are in terms of working with time-saving applications. Now, one of the things that will give you a quick look of what's available is to move to the navigation or the rail at the left-hand side of Teams. And so at the left-hand side here, near the bottom, you'll see apps. And this is just a way to kind of give you a quick tour of some of the applications that you can access. Now, many of these applications are part of your Microsoft 365 subscription, so there isn't any extra charge for those. Although there may be applications that are third-party programs where there may be a subscription fee. So just know that just because you see them, you may not be able to access them unless you are able to unless you are part of or you have subscribed to that tool. But certainly one of the things you'll see here are some applications and options here, many other Microsoft applications, OneNote, Forms, Project, Power BI, Tasks by Planner and To Do, various education. So notice how these are categorized on the left-hand side. And so if we want to focus on applications related to productivity, if project management is important to you, and you can see that there even are industry-specific types of applications. So as Teams has become such a key component in our working lives, you'll see more and more of these applications available. So this is a good way to just kind of get a sense of what is possible and what is available. Now, you may be using some of these applications individually. So for instance, a tool like Microsoft OneNote is something that you may be using separate from Teams, but you have the option to access it directly from Teams, which can make Teams a little bit more of a portal for you. That is, you may mean that you have fewer applications that are open because you can move to them directly. So that's something that we're going to be exploring as well in more detail with it. Specifically in our Teams environment, there also are many ways that we can access the applications. It could be through a conversation. We could add it through a channel tab. We could pin it to our navigation. And there are other applications that we might that might be specific to things like meetings, like a recording, which is automatically managed by Stream and using the whiteboard and more. So multiple places where we may utilize these available applications. And let's just look at a really simple situation where maybe we have somebody that is on our design team and we want to give them a shout out, or we want to recognize some hard work. So here I'm just in one of my channels and I'll start a new conversation. Now, a conversation can simply be something you may be doing every day in Teams, where you can have attachments, add content, and further work with it. But if we move to the ... this is then where we can actually come in and find an application. And notice we could search for something, we could add more, go to more apps, and you could see once again this view here that we had. So that is then one of the options there. Now I'm just using my history here, my back button in the upper left-hand corner to get back to this. So I'm going to go back to that again, my ... and I'm looking for praise. Now you could just type that in as a search, but since I've used it recently, I will go ahead and select that. So this is an application that we could use to recognize someone for maybe an extra work, and I want to recognize Deborah. So I'm simply creating then this praise, and you can see we have a lot of characters we could use for that. And I will go ahead and send this. So what happens then is that that is then part of our conversation. So that becomes one option that we have as well. Now, another option that we have is that, once again, I'll go to my ... And if I'm familiar with a particular application like weather, then I could go ahead and use that, and I could actually add this particular option to then my conversation or my channel on that. So for whatever reason, that's not popping up, but that is another option that we have for that. So I may have just simply clicked at the wrong thing. Let's see if we'll try it one more time. Oh, and now in this case, first of all, what it had to do is install the application. And now, for instance, then if I'm going ahead and putting that in, then I have options in terms of working with that. So that becomes another choice for me. So let's just say, for instance, I want to, some of my folks are in Denver, Colorado, for instance, then I actually could add this then to the channel. This might be helpful if we're planning some travel, or if we just simply want to have that to access. So that becomes another application that we could work with. So those are just some quick examples of it, but let's go ahead and dig in and go even further here. As you may be familiar with, in a channel, we have some standard tabs: post, files, wiki. Now, anything that we don't need, for instance, if you're not utilizing the wiki, you could right click on that and you could actually remove it. But in addition to that, we have a plus here. So we can add tabs for files. That's something that we looked at in our previous training. But we can use tabs for applications. This gives us provides quick access. It's not part of a conversation. It's something that we can get to at any time. So I'll go ahead and click on that plus. And what I want to do is add a OneNote notebook. So if this is something that this particular group of people in this channel are working on, I could add that. But notice all the other options here. We'll talk in a little bit about tasks by planner and to do. And we could create a whiteboard for brainstorming. And we have other applications as well. Quite extensive here. You can see these are in alphabetical order. So these are some things to look at. Being kind of like getting into that vortex of all the applications that are available on our phones, for instance. But for this one, I'll choose OneNote. And once again, if it didn't show up on your list, you could simply enter that into your search. Now, what will happen is that OneNote will either create a default blank notebook for you, or it will give you access to any notebooks that you have created that are available to you as a user. So in this case, I'll open up the Chocolate Creations one, which is for this particular project, and I can go ahead then and save. So whether we access it externally through our OneNote applications, or here we can come right into this from this tab that we've added. And so that makes it really simple for us, and I can access. So this is very much like this would be similar to the online version of OneNote, where I can access these different sections that I have and pages, and to be able to go directly into the same notebook that I could work with independently as well. So that is another way that we can get access to these applications. Once again, leveraging the fact that this can then really be a portal for us in terms of working with it. So all the functionality of this notebook are still available to us. And if somebody is accessing it differently, then that does not lock them out if it's something that is a shared notebook. And so those are some of the other things, that's another consideration for you, is what are you frequently working with within a specific team's channel, and what might be helpful there. Now, indirectly, as we saw in our previous training, under files, these are also then files that are being shared or part of a conversation. And this is then how we can also access various applications. So for instance, if I hover over this file, then I have the opportunity to not only make that a tab, but I could also edit it directly in Teams, launching the application for Excel. I could open it up in the app or the desktop version, open it in the browser for the online or web version. And so this is just another way for us to get to our applications, is by moving to those particular files. Let's look at another popular application. And this is our task by planner and to do. Now, we'll take a quick tour of this, but know that one of our previous training sessions was specifically on the task management features that are available in Microsoft 365. So definitely check that out on our YouTube channel, for the K-Square Technologies YouTube channel, on the task management, where we look at this at planner, we look at to do, we look at list, so we can really dig into that. But in this case, we have a plan that we're going to just explore, and then we'll build one as well. So this is in another channel where I have, as a tab, have added a plan that is utilizing an application. Now, this application can vary. It may be just called Planner. That is, in some government entities, it's just Planner. But for most of us on Teams, it's called Task by Planner and To Do. So it's kind of integrating the Planner and To Do apps, which are available in Microsoft 365. So by exploring this particular one, this already has some entries in that. And this is a really helpful just part of Microsoft 365, but by having this plan, it might make a lot of sense in Teams to have it be this portal basically to different tasks that we have created. Notice how these are set up by, in this case, these are boards. And there are different ways to look at this. I could look at it as a list, board, a chart, I apologize. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. All right, let me back up a little bit. Little allergies kicked in and I muted, but I apparently didn't click hard enough on that one. So let's come back to this. So the task for by planner and to do is something that we can access individually through our Microsoft 365 applications, or it is something that we can really use in this front end portal. So let's explore this in more detail. I'm going to move to one of my other channels and we'll go ahead and create a plan. And as I mentioned, I believe that was something you may have heard, but if just as a reminder, the exploration in more detail of our task management is available in the Caseware Technologies YouTube channel. And it was a separate training session where we explore this. So I'll simply click on this plus. And with that, then what I want to do is I'm going to add this task by planner in to do. Now, it could be that you have an existing plan. That is, you know, if I pick this, I might be adding a plan that already is set up. Okay, so that isn't a requirement that you are creating one from scratch. But in this case, I'll go ahead and I'm going to create a brand new plan. And then I will I'll name that and go ahead and then save. So this is at this point, this is brand new. And this is for maybe for a particular project that we are starting to work on. Now, here what I have a task, for instance, and maybe I am looking at a marketing plan. So part of this is, you know, I want to order a video camera. I could set a due date, maybe that we should take care of that by next week. I'm going to assign that to our IT person, Alan, and then I could add that task. Now, I don't have to make this a to-do. I could click into this instead and call this marketing. So these different buckets give us a way to organize these various plans. So we'll just add a few more things here because, but this is another application where, especially as when you have a team that, you know, maybe we're working on this particular project, you're able to see the progress of that and you can add other topics. So I'll add another task here and this. And that will be one that I will take on. And there can be multiple people assigned to that particular task. Here I can add another bucket. And I'll add a task to this, and this will be to draft. So you can see that we have some different options here that we are working on, and we could continue to build these. So that is the idea then with this task for planner and to do. So this is the planning part of it, but we're also at the same time created to do items for these particular team members. So that becomes another way that we are working with it. Now, how do we make this easier? Well, it could be that these different employees, they don't have tasks that are just in this one channel. They may have tasks from multiple channels that they're working with. And so how can we make that easier? Over here on the left-hand side in our rail, I'll go to the ... And this is where you can add applications. Now, it doesn't have to be the task. It could be something else that you are working on or that's important to you. But for this, I'll go ahead and pick the task. And so now it's actually accessible here. And I'll do one more thing, and that is to right-click and pin it. Now I could also pop out that app, whether or not it's pinned. But the advantage here is that notice that for me, I have plans in 3 different channels. And so this gives me the ability to manage these to-do items and to see what I need to work on. And you can see that there are different choices that we have. So notice as we move through these various options, and I could say, well, here are the different choices. So notice assigned to me. Here are the ones I just created, the draft of marketing plan, the create social media team, and I can manage them in different ways. So that can make it easier for you when you have these. Now, if I move into and view this, here we go, from my Microsoft 365 login, and here I'm looking at Microsoft Office 365, I have my apps in the upper left-hand corner, and I just to show you this, that is, I created that plan in Teams, but it's actually really being stored in SharePoint. So here I have Planner and I have my to-do. So if I go to Planner, then I'm able to see all of the various plans that are available. And in this particular one, this is the Evergreen project, I can move to it this way as well. And so it's the integration of these applications where Teams can be a really good portal for it, but it doesn't mean that that's the only place where it lives. And that's primarily what I want you just to see with that. That is, you work with it in the best way that makes sense for you. These also will show up in the to-do app as well that we have. So those are different options in terms of how we can work with it. And do let me know if you have any questions, drop that into chat. Let's just take a moment to go back to where we were. And so I'm in Planner, but let's say that I want to go to my to-do. And when I come into that, those are my personal tasks. And these are things that you can see on the left-hand side. They are planned. These are also going to show to-do items or tasks that I may have created through Outlook. So here again, we have that integration. And we can see what's coming up and another way to organize it. Once again, the integration. And let's just say, for instance, I got a lot of people volunteering and jumping on this. And so I already have my social media team. I can mark that as complete from wherever it makes sense. And let's go back to then looking at this in Teams. And it may take a moment, but that was marked completed. So there we go. It refreshed and it's no longer on the list. So here again, it's a matter of choosing where it makes the most sense for you. Not that you have to do it only in Teams, but that can be a great front end for you in terms of working with it. So that's just one of the options that you have in terms of continuing with that. So do let me know here again if you have any questions about what might be helpful for you. Some other applications that, and I know I've mentioned it multiple times, but I just want to, explore that other training that we had on YouTube that went into these particular tasks. So I can also, for instance, if I want to, I could mark this as completed right here from this list. But I could also go back to my plan. And if I want to move to that plan, I could go to that specifically and mark it from here. Or I could go back to that channel and this is where I want to complete it. And notice that with this planner app, then I'm able to even look at my completed task. And we can even then see, for instance, these different options, and we can even see, our progress for what's completed and other options there. So explore how this might be really helpful for you in terms of creating a centralized plan and then being able to give people access to their individual responsibilities. Excellent. All right, let's look at some other applications. And these are applications that can have merit or be helpful to us when we're in a meeting. So I'll come into and move to my calendar. I have a meeting that was set up, a project planning, and I will go ahead and move into that meeting. Now, in this case, I'm going to turn everything off simply so that we don't have any conflict with our environment. So yes, I'm running a Teams meeting inside of a Zoom meeting, Zoom webinar, but that's all right. So in this case, then I'm going to, Adele is going to join us as well. And we're now in a Teams meeting. Now, what I'm also going to do in this case is to start a recording. Now I'll unmute this simply so that we don't keep getting that reminder. But in this case, I'm moving to the ... the more. I'll start a recording. So these are options that you're likely familiar with in Teams. But one of the reasons why I'm doing that is because when we record a meeting, it is then recorded using Microsoft Stream. So that's what's creating it. And it also, Stream can go further in your organization as a separate application that can be used for not only meeting videos, but also for other internal video and communication. But in this case, now this meeting is being recorded, and we can continue that, and it will be capturing anything that's going on. You can see the indicator here. But while we're in this meeting, we also want to have some brainstorming, for instance. And one of the ways that we can kind of share a more interactive type meeting is through Whiteboard. And let's look at that. So I'll go to share content. Now, we often will use this to share our screen. It might be a PowerPoint presentation. It might be to show some how-to or to bring up a worksheet and other purposes. But for this, I'm going to go to another application, which is Microsoft Whiteboard. And by the way, this could also be pinned in a channel as another application. So for this, what I'm going to do then is move into and open this up. And what will happen here is it will launch the whiteboard. But note, right now, whiteboard is not yet, whatever actions we take place here are not yet being captured in a recording. And that is likely to change fairly soon. So that is I may see a prompt here as well. So the use of the app will not be recorded, but the support for the recording is coming soon. So in this case, then I could put in just some text and that would be fine. But it's good to explore some of the different options that are available here in the whiteboard. There are templates for things like brainstorming. You could bring in images, you could bring in documents, and know that these are also things that, maybe we instead bring up our OneNote so we capture it in a little bit different way. But this is one of the tools that's available to us. Now, our other participant can also join in. And so she could come in and put in her own contribution here, and it becomes a group activity. And you can see that on my screen here, Adele is creating something. And when she clicks away, then we will see that. So that becomes another way to just kind of have a free form activity. If you want to capture something a little bit more permanently, that's where you might consider then adding the whiteboard as a tab, or perhaps using OneNote for that as well. So that becomes a different option for you. But we've done a couple things in this meeting. We're recording it, and we're also then have utilized the whiteboards. So let's go ahead and continue then with our exploration. And just one moment here. I just want to. All right. So at this point, then, it's also another thing, just a kind of a tip to know as you are working with a recording, for instance, is if you are one of the meeting organizers, and Teams is starting to roll out that you can have multiple people be a meeting organizer, which gives us a lot more flexibility. Then make sure that you end the meeting and you don't just leave, because that is then going to close or stop the recording. But if you just leave, then it can be, as long as there's still a participant, it will just keep recording that. And so if we want to, wrap it up, we're all done, then we'll end the meeting. And that not only, we'll say, kicks everyone out, but it also is a more final for that in terms of concluding the recording. So we'll go ahead and end this one. Now, a couple things have happened, and let's go ahead and look while we're waiting for this to kind of come together. That was a meeting that was in our design channel. But let's look at a meeting. Let's go ahead and look here. Actually, here's a meeting that we had. That was in our planning channel. So that one's still kind of sitting there. It's saving the recording. You can see that it popped up here. Let's look at a previous one that we had. So we had an earlier meeting here that we had with a recording. And once that comes up, or once we see that, a couple things are possible. I can click on this meeting. So this is Stream that is creating it for us. And I can click on this meeting. and we could just watch it. So that would be an option for us. We would also be able to, I'll close this for just a moment, because I want you to see here that that particular meeting is actually being captured in SharePoint, because that's where our channel exists. And here is that meeting. So I can actually go to the ... and maybe what I want to do here is I'll rename it and make this a little bit more meaningful for us. But notice it's an MP4 file. So there's a couple different things about that. Whether or not we click on it directly and open it up, or we're in SharePoint, we can download it, and then using the Photos app, we can actually make some simple edits to it. That is, we might want to trim the front and the end part of it. That is, maybe the front part is just some conversation as people are joining the meeting, and we want to trim the first minute or two of that. So that would be an option for it. But we are at any time, if we wanted to actually view that, we could certainly select that, and then we would be able to watch this meeting. So that's just one of the things to know, that that is available, and it's created for you using the Stream app as well. All right, so let's go ahead and hop back into Teams and look. So there we have now in our meeting, we have then any conversation or chat, for instance, that might have come in. We have the recording, we have the attendance report. All of these things are taking place in this case because we had launched that. So explore how that might also be helpful for you and how you might work with it. One of the things that we looked at as well and talked about is if that whiteboard is helpful for you. Let's say I'm come over here to my planning channel, and we could once again add that. So as a plus here, maybe I want that whiteboard to be just a place where people can kind of hop in and add kind of free form thoughts. We could gather information from them. And so that is another way we can leverage an application. Notice it has all of these tools, but it's not just specific to that meeting. It's something that we were able to then capture and continue adding to. So explore how that might be helpful for you. And notice here, once again, then we have different tabs that we can navigate to. Now, these can be rearranged, which can be really helpful when you may have a lot of different tabs, but that becomes another option for us as well. And so here we have a plan that we might be working with as well. So consider then various topics or applications and where they're most suited for you. Where do you want them to reside? You know, is OneNote something that would be helpful for you to bring into your applications? Is the whiteboard with the task for planner and to do, is that something that would help centralize some of your work? What are some of the applications that you've seen so far that would be helpful for you? Let's look at a couple other applications as we move through and look at Teams. One of the other ones that's available certainly is that we can also create a poll. So a poll is something we can use in Outlook. It's something we can create in Teams, but it's also something we can do separately as well. And we have a separate training as well in Microsoft Forms, because that's what's underlying it. That is, you can use other third-party polling programs, but you certainly don't have to in working with us. So how we can easily start this, let's say that I want to poll my team here. In my post, I'll have a new conversation here, and I'll move to the ... and I want to work with forms. Now what happens here, this is going to be a much simpler poll or form than what we could create directly in the application. And this is also something just good to know, that once you create it, it isn't something that can be deleted. It is just part of your conversation. So although other conversations can be deleted, this is one that once you create it, you know, keep it as something that's pretty simple with that. I could have multiple answers for this. So maybe you simply are wanting to create a simple poll for availability, or you're asking about food preferences, or you have something else that can be pretty easily handled. And I could continue adding other options. Maybe I'll let you have multiple answers for that. So I'll preview this. And this is what it looks like. Okay. So I'll go ahead and send that. That means that it becomes then part of my conversation. Okay. And so I'm going to go in here and I want to submit for all of those. Now Adele has now seen this, and I will go ahead and she is going to submit a vote as well. So she really likes the apps options. So now you can see that that is changing the nature of the poll. And by the way, you could also come into this conversation here, and I could say, for instance, or actually I'll come into this one and I could say at planning. So this is an at mention. Please answer this poll before Thursday. So if it was something that was time sensitive, we could do that. Now, additionally, when we have conversations, we can come into this ... This is where we saw, for instance, that we had our praise and weather, and here's form. So I'm going to right click here and I can pin it to my conversations. And what that means then is, in the future, as I want to, regardless of where I might be in this conversation or in this channel, I now can launch this right off the top. That is, I don't have to go into, and here, by the way, here's stream, so I could launch a recording. So I don't have to go into and launch the application. I'm pinning it because maybe this is one that I'm using frequently. So the same idea, if I come into the ... maybe praise is something I'm also want to be able to quickly have access to. And now I see that. So that is another way we can leverage these applications, is by pinning them and having them be easy to get to whenever we want to work with them. So consider how, once again, what's the best and easiest place for you to put these applications? Maybe it's to create a tab in your channel. Perhaps you want to just pin them to your conversations, and other people will see that as well. So you have those different options, and what makes the most sense. We pinned this app, the task, to the left-hand rail. So that becomes another choice for us. What makes the most sense for you? Let's wrap up our look at applications by exploring then how we can work real easily between Outlook and Teams. Here again, we can use this as kind of a portal or where we see the integration of different applications. And so in this case, then, let's say that I have I'll come into my inbox here. And I have a couple different ways that I can share information. So if I'm in Outlook, look for this option, Share to Teams. And I just received, one of my team members shared that has this email here, and that is that there's free tickets available. So rather than sending this out and adding to the email thread, I'm just going to post this into a channel. And to do that, I'll choose Share to Teams. And then I'll be asked basically where it is that I want to put this. That is what would make sense. So I might, if I put in design, say, well, I'd like to put that in my design channel in this evergreen project. Or maybe I just want to go into my evergreen project. I could go to the general tab for that as well. So there's some different, so I might just go and put in evergreen. And I could go to the general channel for this because maybe it's just for anybody that's in that channel. And so hey team. So I'm actually sharing the content of the email to that general channel. And if I had attachments, I could include those as well. So I'll share this and I can close this. Now let's go back to Teams and I'll go back to go to the general channel. And here is that email. So what's the best place for these? That's the other question we can ask, not only which applications you might use, but what's the best place for this type of communication. And I could mention the team, for instance. And so basically, if I just do @team, start typing that, then and we have this conversation with an @mention that will bring more attention to this as well. Now on the team side, there's multiple ways we can also interact with Outlook. So what that looks like then is we come to a particular channel, for instance, if we go to the ... know that every channel has an email address. So that means that we can actually click on Get Email Address, copy that, and we could then from Outlook use that email. And let's just say, for instance, that I want to share this information, or could be any other message that I have, but I'll go ahead and bring this up and I'm going to forward this to that channel. This is going to the design channel for that project. Once again, what's the best place? Where would they best exist? And so that becomes another option for me as I work with this. Let's see if this is coming down. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, I think, here we go. I added that weather, but I didn't complete it. So now we'll go ahead here. Now, here's that email that I sent because I had that email address. Now, I also could share a conversation. So if I have a conversation, this looks like a really important one, I could go to the ... and actually share it to Outlook. That is, where's the best place for you to do that? So that becomes another way for us to work with it. And then this will actually would become an email that we could send. So that becomes another way for us to take advantage of the integration. You can see here that this would then be an email that I could send from Teams using Outlook. And then finally, if we have various attachments that are in Outlook, for instance, and here, for instance, I have, those did have some attachments. Let's go to the right one. There we go. All right, now I have some files here, and I will, let's say that I am in a particular channel. I'll go to my files. I could actually take this attachment, right, and drag it right into my files. So here again, the integration of these different applications and putting data where it makes the most sense, not trying to just make Outlook work for us regardless. That is how we can integrate and have these various programs work together. I hope this has given you some inspiration and ideas. And even if you just have one or two tips that you can start utilizing, hopefully many more than that, about how you can work with your applications. Let's go ahead then and wrap up. I encourage you just to take a moment to kind of capture, that is, what are you going to try? What are some things that you will start using? Maybe just one or two of these ideas. What's a new application that you've seen that you might start using within Teams? Also wanted to remind you as well that we have some upcoming K-Square Technologies training webinars. We do typically offer these once a month on the second Tuesday of each month. Next month, it'll be the third Tuesday. And what we've got coming up is a series of 2 sessions on working with macros in Microsoft Excel. So getting started with macros, this is something that could take, it's an ongoing process, but we're going to give you a quick look at getting started with creating automated routines in Microsoft Excel and how you can take advantage of that. And then we will continue our look with that then in August. And we'll have some other sessions that we will continue adding to the schedule with this. Now, when we finish in a couple minutes, you'll see a survey pop up on the screen, and this is your opportunity to let us know about what topics you'd like to see in the future in this webinar series. But I hope you will be able to join us in July and August to learn more about creating macros in Microsoft Excel. So that's our look at working with time-saving applications in Microsoft Teams. How can we help you to be more productive with your Microsoft technologies? Please reach out to us for IT services and consulting to really support you with these tools. Thanks so much for joining us today.